We come into this world with nothing except original sin, the curse. And then we spend, 60, 70, 80 years, many people chasing the world and all that it has. By the way, that's the same world that killed God, that world. That's who they chase for years and years and years. And then you die and you leave with nothing. Come in with nothing, you leave with nothing. And all that chasing in the middle, what was it for? When you hear it like that, it's kind of an odd thing, isn't it? It seems a little bit strange. The truth is that those who have God have everything, even when they have nothing. And those who do not have God have nothing, even though they think they have everything. That's really true. In that first reading today from Ecclesiastes, Koheleth means preacher, is kind of a pessimist. And he's kind of lamenting about life and all of its ups and downs, good things and bad things. And then he comes to the conclusion, what does it matter? It's all vanity because in the end you die and all your stuff gets left behind. It's true. In Hebrew, vanity translates into mist or fog. And so he's talking about this life kind of being a foggy mist of illusion. When we chase the material world, it's all illusion because it doesn't really do anything in the end. Certainly if we buy things out of love to help others, that would help because the act of love itself is the most important thing. So actually you can leave this world with something. You can leave with all the love you've received and all the love you've given. That translates over to heaven. That's true. So we should be focused on that. Now, in the second reading, life was certainly not misty or foggy for St. Paul. He says Christ is all and in all. Basically saying Jesus is everything. Jesus is all. Jesus is all that matters. And then he says, if you were raised with Christ, seek what is above, where Christ is seated at the right hand of God, and you have taken off the old self with its practices and have put on the new self. He's saying, don't turn back to your old ways. This was a common theme in all the communities he was founding. Corinth, Romans, Colossians, all of them. He'd say, why are you backsliding? You have something better now. And of course, he knew a lot about conversion. He had a very big conversion where he left the life of Saul, the persecutor of Christians, and became St. Paul, the promoter of Christianity. It was a 180, big conversion. And he's saying, leave that life behind you, the life of impurity, of passion, of evil desire, of greed, the idolatry. Leave it. Do not go back to it. Do not turn back to it. There's something better at work here. And then we get to the gospel today, and Jesus gives us a very strong and serious warning about this capital sin of greed. Take care to guard against all greed. Greed is also known as avarice or covetousness. Our world can be a greedy world, and in some instances, many instances, it's promoted. Greed is promoted as a good thing. Who's old enough to remember the movie Wall Street? No, really? That's it? My goodness. I'm feeling very old. Well, there's a scene in there where Gordon Gekko gives a speech to the shareholders about the wealth and the accumulation of wealth and how greed is good. He literally says it like that. Greed is good. And he's convincing them that it is because it's going to make them a lot of money and everybody's going to get rich. This is a mentality that exists in our day. Yeah, we need things to live. We need shelter. We need gas in the car. We need food on the table. We need those things to be comfortable, to get along, right? But there's a lot of surplus out there. And the surplus, when just hoarded for ourselves, can become an issue. Thomas Aquinas writes, greed is a sin against God, just as all mortal sins, inasmuch as man condemns things eternal for the sake of things temporal. So it's the chasing the world and forfeiting the Lord. And it happens a lot. It's idolatry, pure and simple, worshiping not God, but creatures, particularly money. If we are for money, then we will eventually reject the true God. You can't be for both, as Jesus has told us. So it's tricky. St. John Paul II, Pope John Paul II, now a saint, wrote, the greatest misfortune of this age is that people consider money the highest good. Money is the highest good. And there can be many evils that come out of that. You can fall into sins of disloyalty, betrayal, treason, even murder for personal gain. Some of the worst family fights I've ever seen have been over the will. And somebody's not happy with the will, and that creates a rift in the family. And those rifts sometimes go on right up to the grave, where people stop talking to their siblings over money. Now, in the parable today, Jesus gives us about the rich fool. Jesus points out that greed is the ultimate kind of foolishness. And by the way, it doesn't say that this man was bad or immoral or unjust. He was just rich. He was probably very competent, probably a good businessman. And his decision to tear down his old storage and replace it with a bigger one probably was a wise business decision. Nevertheless, he's called a fool by God. Why? Well, in the first place, he's only thinking of himself. And he is very egocentric. In the story, he builds up these big barns, he stores all his grain, and then he says, I'm gonna lay back down, rest, eat, drink, and be merry. Sound like any world we know? Is that kind of the motto of a lot of our culture today? Eat, drink, and be merry? In the second place, and more importantly, there's no mention of God in this man's life. He was only concerned with himself. It never occurred to him that one day he would die and there would be something to account for at the end of life. He placed his future entirely on his hoarded wealth, not realizing that all of these can be wiped out in an instant. He had fallen into the trap of idolatry. It's easy to fall into, very easy. I've seen it over and over, particularly when I was back working in Wall Street. You know, people can generate a lot of money and they change. I've seen it happen. People change. Suddenly they have a large sum of wealth underneath them and they suddenly become a different person. Like I am now in control of my destiny. I don't need God. I don't need you. I don't need anybody. I'm good. It's a weird phenomenon, but it happens. Because something changes up here. There's like a switch that flips and suddenly people think, I'm in control. Look at what I have made for myself. Very rare that somebody gets humble when they get rich, but it can happen. In fact, 2 months ago, I got a phone call from a gentleman who said, can I meet with you? I have a dilemma I need to discuss with you. I said, sure. And as it turns out, this guy, somehow we're related. My grandmother died and my grandfather remarried this woman, and she already had a family, and her son had a son. So the grandson of this woman, I guess, is related to me because I'm the grandson of my grandfather who married her. So we're something, I don't know what it is, but we're both grandchildren of this couple who got married. Anyway, turns out he's a CPA that developed a software that all the big 5 accounting firms are using, and it's very popular. They love it, and it's going public. It's now public, but the company. But he was suddenly going to come into about almost $200 million. I said, well, I mean, that's terrible. How can I help you? He said, I'm afraid of becoming the rich man that walks away from God. I have dreams about it. I'm frightened of it. I don't want to be that guy. I said, well, that's not a problem. You just write a check to St. Catherine's. We'll take it off your hands. And you will most assuredly be prayed for every single day of your life by those good people of St. Catherine's. And he said, there has to be another way. And I persisted, but he was persistent back. And so we worked out a trust that would work for him. And he's going to be okay. But you know what? The funny thing is, I said, are you happy with your life right now? He says, I love my life. I love my wife. I love my kids. I love my home. I love my job. I love everything. Then don't change. You don't have to change. Just put it away in a trust and start helping some people that need help. You can give off a portion of that every year. Let's say 10% of your interest you could just be generating to help churches, poor, homeless women, shelters, who knows? But you can do a lot of good. And he agreed. The rare exception. Now, in 2013, there's an interesting story. It was relevant this month, actually. There was a guy who was doing an ordinary cleanup of his office, and he found an old hard drive and decided he didn't need it, and he threw it away. And this man, James Howells, he made a decision that would haunt him the rest of his life. Because on that hard drive was the private key and PIN to his 8,000 Bitcoin. And as you know, it's not it's not like you just type in, I forgot my password, send me a new one. You have to know that password. If you don't, you're not getting into your Bitcoin. Now, back then, 8,000 coin were worth $8 million. Today, 8,000 Bitcoin are worth $750 million. $750 million. So James has spent the last 12 years of his life trying to sue the government to get access to the landfill. Yeah, he wants to dig through garbage. He's willing to do that for the rest of his life to find his hard drive. That is, to me, no, not doing that. And he's developed expensive software to scan the landfill. But you know what? The government kept saying no, and he kept losing in court. And finally, the last level judge said, no, you're not getting access to the landfill. It's been 12 years. That the hard drive's probably deteriorated or demolished or something. And this is the end of your case. The case is closed. Move on with your life. That happened July 5th, about a month ago. So for the first time in 12 years, James can now pursue other things. And I'm hoping one of them is going to be Jesus, because this man needs him. He has been consumed by this lust for this money that he threw away on a hard drive. It's been the only thing he's thought about for 12 years. And it's time for him to open his eyes to the potential that there's more to life than this money. And that money probably would have destroyed him anyway. So today, let's just make this gospel give us a lesson to firmly resolve to avoid greed in all its forms. And may we realize that greed does not only make us fools, but it puts our eternal salvation in jeopardy when it overtakes us. Instead, let us develop a true sense of security, a security based on our faith and trust in a providential God. He does provide, and he always provides what we need, what's best for us. Because those who have God in their lives have everything, even when they have nothing. And those who do not have God in their lives have nothing, even when they think they have everything.